My name's Ari Gold. I am the Guinness World Record holder for air drumming. I also run the podcast hotsticks.fm, where I've had drummers from Testament, Suicidal Tendencies, Anthrax, Rush, Styx, so many other great bands, and now Dan Whitesides of The Used. Why do I always stumble on that word? Very simple word. And so happy to have you here, and we're kind of continuing an interview from Instagram because I couldn't figure out an echo situation. But Dan, you're on tour. You're in Lubbock, Texas.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, as a continuation of our other interview, how you got into music. What is your earliest memory of connecting with music? Doesn't have to be playing it, but when did it start speaking to you and moving your body and making you want to do something with your arms that led you to being a drummer?
Well, my mom told me I always used to beat on pots and pans. Kind of don't remember that, but my brother gave me all of his old tapes. I don't know why, but he just gave me a bunch of them. It was like Aerosmith, and it was just a bunch of stuff. One of my earliest memories was just sitting in my room, looking out my window, waiting for my dad to come pick me up, and just listening to music. You know, my dad's musical, so I recorded my first song with my dad when I was probably like 6 years old. It was a Beatles song, 8 Days a Week. So, and he always had pianos and everything around the house, guitars. He taught me how to play guitar. Bought me my first drum set, but the first.
So you were were you playing melodic instruments for a while before you picked up drums?
I wouldn't say that. I think I may have even picked up the guitar after the drums, and I was just singing with my dad. Like, he would play the piano. It was always out. Like, my little brother picked up the piano and the guitar, just like my dad. They could play anything. I could kind of play a little bit of guitar, and that's about it. And besides drums. But the first time that I saw Alex Van Halen play, I was like, I remember it well. I was probably like 10 or 11, and I was like, I'm gonna play the drums. And I just remember asking my dad to get me for a drum set. And one Christmas he bought me, just to start downstairs and get. And he's like, "Do you see anything down there?" I'm like, "Yeah, there's a drum set." He's like, "That." So, and then that just kicked it all off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And did you have neighbors who were willing to accept the sound coming from the basement? Or
yeah, no, not really. Like, it's funny because in my dad's basement it was really dark and like it was underground, so I'm sure they could hear it. But my mom's basement was very wide open, and the cops were always coming over. I'm like, well, we talked to our neighbors, and he's like, dude, you got guys 2 miles away calling us about your band. I'm like, oh, sorry, but always getting the cops called on us.
Were you wearing earplugs?
No way.
Yeah, I blew my ears in high school playing drums too.
Yeah, my ears are bad, really bad.
Yeah, it's too bad, but
yeah,
live and learn too late, I guess.
Yeah.
Is how it is. But so were you growing up outside Salt Lake, or were you in Orem, or where were you?
I was in I was all over. It was mainly like Davis County and Weber County, which is like Layton, Utah, and Ogden Valley, Utah.
Okay.
And so, yeah, my dad still lives in the same house in Layton that I grew up in. So yeah, always just outside. And then when I got older, I moved to Ogden, and there was a really cool music scene in Ogden until we all moved to Salt Lake, and then that scene in Salt Lake just kicked off though.
Uh-huh. And did that mean the Ogden scene kind of died, or?
Yeah, it totally died. Everybody moved to Salt Lake.
Ogden right now. You better watch your tongue, but.
No, yeah, for real.
It did die out.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, like I said, the Salt Lake music scene would just like from what I remember, it blew up.
Right. Yeah, I was surprised when I went to shoot Adventures of Power, the air drum movie we shot in Utah, and it was filling in for New Mexico because there was a copper mining town that I wanted to shoot in New Mexico, and then they found out we were going to be doing stuff about the unions and the air drummers that are in a union, and there's a whole craziness, and so we got shut down there. So then we moved up to Utah, and I was surprised, in our prep weeks and hanging out there, how much of a cool scene there was in and around Salt Lake.
What year was that?
We shot in 2007, and then we finished it in '08 in New York, because I shot it like 4 short films in different locations, because I didn't have the money to do like it all as one big movie, but it allowed me to really kind of get the texture of a place. So we would go and shoot it like a short film. So I had Michael McKean and Jane Lynch and some of the other big actors up in Salt Lake, and then up in a town called Helper. Do you know Helper?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the main town was shot in a Helper, and then a lot of the interiors, there's a bar scene and stuff like that, but we shot in Salt Lake. And then there was a whole section that takes place in Mexico that we shot. I remember the name of the town, but it was about 45 minutes due west of Salt Lake City. So we got a lot out of Utah, and the crew was all from Utah, and the vibe was very Utah in a beautiful way. Like, I mean, it's such a specific flavor. You know, people have a kind of like willingness to be really weird in Utah that if you've never been there, you wouldn't think that. You'd think it's kind of straight-laced and boring, or that might be the reputation outside. But actually, something about I don't know if it's in the air or the water, but like people are pretty wacky.
It's probably because of how Mormon it is and can be. It's like when you break out of that, you kind of you can go, you know. That's what I'm saying. I think that's why the music scene was so cool there for so long. I don't know if it is anymore, but I mean, like the time when you guys were there, like that was like probably the peak of it all. You know what I mean? Like there were just so many different types of bands and great players. You know, but I moved back not long ago and only lived there for about a year, but there was nothing going on. But it was kind of like right when things were starting to open back up. So
right. Okay. Yeah. So when you were before you joined the Used, like, were you kind of chasing a big gig like that, wanting to get into like a band that was already established?
I mean, I wanted to be in a band that made money playing music. You know what I mean? And everybody, we would always say, I just want to make enough money to survive. But later on, you realize that like that means forever. You know what I mean? So that's kind of, you know what I mean? So, and some of the bands that I was in, I believed in, and they, you know, we all did, but it wasn't to be. So I wasn't really searching out to be in the Used or in a band that was already going. I was actually about to be done trying so hard. You know what I mean? Like I was 28 years old. I'm like, I need to like get my shit together and, you know,
get back to Brick Lane.
Yeah, you know, exactly. So yeah, I wasn't, at that point I was about done.
And then what, I mean, what happened? You got a phone call that they wanted someone to jam with to like work out some new tracks, or?
I became really good friends with Quinn, who at the time was a guitar player, and we would just start jamming. There's that word. We would just play. He'd come down to my rehearsal spot and we'd play. And we'd play with just a bunch of people. Sometimes Jeph would come down and we would just play. We never really wrote a song. We would just kind of just play, you know, just let it go. And he was a huge fan of the band that I was in at the time called the New Transit Direction. And the Used took us out on probably 3 week tours. So we just became friends. And then when he decided that he wanted a new drummer, I was first on the list. So, yeah.
Good gig.
It's actually kind of a funny story how he even saw my band play, because there was this place, I think it was called Up Rock in Salt Lake City. It was like a hip hop shop upstairs, and then downstairs they did shows. And it was a dungeon, man. It was just, but whatever. We were just doing some shows. I was sicker than I've ever been, and I tried to get the band that was supposed to play. I was trying to play before this one band. They're like, no, we're not going on before you guys. You're going on last. I'm like, God, man, fine. So we ended up playing, and Quinn got to the show way late and only saw us and just loved our band. So it was kind of blessing in disguise.
So where are those guys now from that band?
They're around. I don't know if any of them are playing much. I know they play, but not in bands. I do talk to our guitar player Josh quite a bit. He and I wrote some stuff over the pandemic. But like I said, when I moved, I was living in Pasadena for like 8 years. We moved to Utah, bought a house, And then my wife got a job after she graduated college in LA. So we sold our house and moved back. So I didn't really get a chance to see anybody because it was the pandemic, you know, so everybody was staying aside. And, but as far as I know, yeah, they're all still kind of playing, but not really like out, you know?
Right.
Yeah. A lot of them work at overstock.com.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, right, because that's based out there.
Yeah. I worked there for a minute too.
Wow, so that could have been you.
Yeah. I could have been there. But they manage it now, and you know they've moved up in the company and stuff. I quit working for my dad for like, I don't know, maybe a month. And I remember I was working at the call center at Overstock, and I remember just sitting there thinking this is the most boring thing I've ever done, falling asleep on the phone talking to people.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And so wait, you were laying bricks for your dad before that?
Yeah.
I mean, I want to say maybe there was something, you know, like the physical labor. You know, a drummer is a different kind of musician because the drummer has to be in shape. So maybe it was training you, right?
Maybe so. I was built like a brick shitter.
Yeah. So how long are you gonna be on tour on this one?
Let's see. This tour we have a week left. So on this tour, we've been out for almost a month. We were out a month with Rise Against. We were home for a month. Now we're out with A Day to Remember for a month, and we're 1 week left. And we have shows in Lubbock tonight, and then, oh Lord, I think Arizona somewhere.
Somewhere, yeah.
And then Irvine, and then the When We Were Young festivals.
Okay, that's cool. Are you meeting up at all with My Chemical Romance?
No plans to meet up with them. I think Bert reached out, but Gerard has a different number. Like we were talking about maybe doing Under Pressure or something. Bert had mentioned it to him, but it's kind of one of those things where they're playing like 10:45 at night. Like I was back at the bus about ready to go to bed at 10:45. But we ran into a bunch of other people. We ran into Tucker from Thursday.
Nice. I talked to Tucker a few weeks ago.
Yeah. So we ran into a bunch of people. Anthony Green from Circus Survive. Lots of people popped in. Saw like All American Reject guys. Chris Caraba from Dashboard. And but as far as collaborations go with anything like that, there's no plans really.
What inspired the Under Pressure recording? Was that something you jammed on tour and then it just happened? You decided
that
to
was
like
before me, but it was one of those. It was one of those things that they were like, dude, The Used. Bert kind of helped my chem, up when they were first starting. So like taking them out on tour everywhere, all over Europe, all over the US. You know what I mean? And then they just blew up. He helped them get signed to the label. You know what I mean? Brought out their A&R guys. So when they Under Pressure was just kind of like everybody loves Queen and David Bowie from both bands, so it was just kind of
it's fun.
Well,
so what are you looking forward to most in the next week of playing, and what do you look forward to about not being on tour?
Well, I get to go home and be with my family, I'm excited about that. They came out to the last When We Were Young. They're gonna come out to this one, and I got a 10-month-old and an 11-year-old, so my wife and my daughter, the 11-year-old, went off and watched bands, and I took the baby happily and went back to the bus and just hung out with him, let him crawl all over the place.
Right, nice.
And then I'm excited to go play When We Were Young again. It's fun. It's kind of it's chill for as huge as it is. I had my daughter come up and play. If you look on my Instagram, she came up and played the snare drum on Pretty Handsome Awkward in front of 60,000 people. It was cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I'm excited to do that. And
it's great that you're able to integrate your family into your life. That's there's not a lot of musicians who actually figure out how to do that.
It's hard. Like, for example, after Irvine, I'm gonna leave that night and just drive straight to Vegas just so I can bring my family. Just because our bus is so full, and I don't think it's not good. It's not a good atmosphere for the baby and things like that. But you got to do what you got to do to make it work. Otherwise. It's funny, my daughter's soccer coach was like, "Is everything okay? We haven't seen Farrah in a while." I'm like, "I'm so sorry. I bring my family out when I can." Like she came to San Diego with me. It was just her and I. We just drove down. I live in Studio City, so it's only an hour and a half drive or whatever. or whatever.
Yeah,
It's 2 hours.
we should. I'm in Venice when I'm here, although I'm off to Spain in an hour. But we should have a whiskey or a coffee or a surf or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm all about it for sure.
Yeah, whiskey and coffee.
Why not? Hell yeah.
The light drugs for those of us who want to live.
Dude, that's about all I do is drink. That water and beer.
Yeah. That works for me too.
Yeah.
So I am off to Spain. So I'm gonna sign off. We will cut this together and figure out how to deal with that Instagram. We may need to have you download or save the Instagram if you didn't already, and if it's gone, then we'll survive.
Yeah.
But I apologize for the technical.
No worries,
challenge.
Man. It's probably half my fault. At least.
No.
At least
We
half
haven't
my
done
fault.
this thing where we do multiple channels at once since last year because we got lazy, and now I remember why we got lazy because it's a pain in the ass. But it's cool because some people are on different, some people are on YouTube, some people are on Facebook. I don't use Facebook at all, but there are people who use it. So hello.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate you taking the time to talk about music, and I think it's clearly from seeing the comments, a lot of people who are inspired by you and inspired by the kind of emotional release that your band provides. And certainly with like the new tracks you're talking about, like it's a noble thing to give people an outlet, and that's why we make art. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And you got my number, so if you ever want to hang out or whatever, hit me up.
Yeah, I'll be back after Thanksgiving. So let's
So what, are you going on vacation or you got a house there too? Or both?
No, I'm going to a film festival in Spain, and then I'm going to Germany to record the voiceover for a Netflix show where I'm like doing the voice from the 1940s for like on the news. It's like a show about World War II, and I'm doing the guy who's like, the Germans are invading France. Whatever.
I looked up why everybody talked like that back then once, and it was the microphones. That's just what they would pick. Am I right?
Well, they were yelling, but also there was, it's a completely manufactured accent. People didn't talk to that in daily life.
Oh.
So the American actors were taught to do a semi-English accent to make them sound more elegant. And that's why it's called a mid-Atlantic accent, because it's neither American nor a British accent. And it's totally put on. It's fake.
Yeah. But the highness of it all too. Everybody sounds.
Oh, the yelling, the yelling.
Yeah, we're talking like this, and you know what I mean. Well, that's cool, man.
So anyway, I'm doing that in Germany, and then I'm going home for Thanksgiving, and then I'll be back here. So.
All right, we'll have a good safe trip.
Thank you. Really nice to meet you, and catch you on the flip side.
All right, man. See ya.
All right. Ciao.